On a cold October night, under a sky veiled in thick, dark clouds, 4 American friends, Sam, Kelsey, Mike, and Sarah, embarked on a journey that would forever change their lives. They had heard whispers of a haunted crossroad, a place locals referred to as the Crossroad of Lost Souls. The story went that in the 1950s, a family was tragically killed in a horrific accident at that very intersection. And since then, on certain nights, the ghostly remnants of that family could be seen reliving their final moments. Come on, guys, this could be the biggest story ever. Just imagine the likes and followers we'll get, Sam urged, excitement gleaming in his eyes. Kelsey, always eager for adventure, agreed, while Mike and Sarah exchanged hesitant glances. The idea of spending the night at a haunted crossroad was thrilling yet terrifying. But curiosity won over their fears, and they set off. As they approached the crossroad, an eerie silence fell over them. The wind, which had been howling on their way there, abruptly died down. Shadows cast by leafless, twisted trees stretched across the road like dark fingers trying to claw their way into their world. The air grew cold, so biting that they could see their breath fog up with every exhale. They parked the car and turned off the headlights. Letting darkness envelop them, the group stood in silence, each trying to shake off the unease crawling up their spines. Just then, they heard it, a faint, barely audible sound. It was like a low hum, slowly building up into what sounded like the distant whine of tires skidding, followed by a muffled, heart-wrenching scream that echoed through the still night air. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, clutching Mike's arm, but before anyone could respond, a pair of headlights pierced through the fog. A car was slowly making its way toward them from the other side of the crossroad. It was an old, black 1950s model, its paint chipped and rusted, headlights dim and flickering. The car rolled forward as if it were floating rather than driving. Sam, mesmerized, aimed his flashlight at it, but the light seemed to vanish upon touching the vehicle, swallowed by a strange, unnatural darkness surrounding it. "Guys, look," he muttered, trying to capture the scene on camera. Kelsey, who had inched closer out of morbid curiosity, suddenly stopped dead in her tracks. Through the grimy window of the car, she could see the silhouettes of 4 people, a man, a woman, and 2 children, all sitting perfectly still, facing forward. Their faces were deathly pale, their eyes wide open, but devoid of any life, staring blankly as if frozen in a moment of terror. Their skin was tinged with a faint bluish hue, as if they had been pulled from an icy grave. The air around the friends turned frigid, colder than they had ever felt before. Sam reached out to touch the car, hoping for some kind of connection, some understanding of what was happening. But as soon as his fingers brushed against the cold metal, the family's heads snapped around to face him, their empty eyes fixing on him with a hollow, soul-piercing gaze. Suddenly, the woman inside the car opened her mouth, and a blood-curdling scream escaped her lips, a scream that sounded like it was ripped from the depths of despair. Filled with unimaginable agony, the scream echoed through the night, growing louder and louder, as if the very earth was mourning with her. Panicking, Sam stumbled backward, and the group bolted toward their own car. They piled in, and Mike frantically started the engine. But no matter how far they drove, the crossroad seemed to reappear in front of them, like a twisted loop they couldn't escape. The car's windows fogged up, and words began to appear as if written by an unseen hand. The words spelled out in shaky, jagged letters, "Join US." Terror-stricken, Kelsey began to cry, her breath coming in shallow gasps as she tried to scrape the words off the window with trembling hands. But the words only grew darker, more pronounced, and suddenly, an icy handprint appeared on the glass beside her head, fingers splayed wide, pressing as if trying to reach inside. Desperate, Sarah whispered prayers under her breath, clutching a small cross she wore around her neck. The temperature continued to drop, and frost began to creep across the windshield, forming intricate patterns that looked like twisted faces and outstretched hands, reaching out from the other side. Then, out of nowhere, they saw it again, the black car, this time parked just a few feet in front of them. The family inside had their faces pressed up against the windows, staring directly at the friends. Their eyes seemed to burn with something dark and malevolent, an insatiable hunger that sent shivers down their spines. The woman's mouth was open in a silent scream, her eyes wide with eternal horror, as if she were trapped in a nightmare that would never end. Mike slammed on the gas, trying to ram through, But the car wouldn't move. It was as if some invisible force was holding them in place. The headlights on the ghostly vehicle flickered. And then the engine roared to life. Louder and more menacing than before. The black car started moving slowly towards them, inching closer with every passing second. In a last, desperate act, Sarah leaned forward and screamed, "We're sorry, we didn't mean to disturb you. Please, let us go." A sudden silence fell, the fog began to lift, and the black car vanished as if it had never been there. The frost on the windows melted away, and the air grew warmer. The crossroad lay still and empty in the dawn's early light, as if nothing had happened. The friends sat in silence, too shaken to speak, each haunted by the images they'd seen. They turned the car around and left, never daring to look back. They knew that they had narrowly escaped something dark and malevolent, something that had wanted to claim them. Though they never spoke of that night again, each one carried a lingering fear deep within, a fear that one day, when they least expected it, they might find themselves back at the crossroad of lost souls, forever caught in the nightmare, just like the family they had encountered, trapped between life and death, awaiting the next lost souls to join them.